Hi, it's Barb, Meeple PhD, and we are coming to the end of 2022, and I thought I would look back and look at some of my favorite played games over the year. These aren't necessarily games that came out in 2022, just games that I played over the year. So there will be some older titles here and some newer ones. And I did a video like this last year, so some of those have come back again and some have not. So we will see which ones have changed. I also want to give a shout out to PubMeeple, which has a ranking system. So I used that. I looked at all of the games I played throughout the year, ranked them all, which took a while. And this is basically the list. Although Encyclopedia came in at number 10, which is a Kickstarter that just fulfilled. And I have only played it once, and it didn't seem right to put that on a favorite list this year. I might have just been caught up in the Kickstarter excitement over having it and having gotten to play it, right before I had done this ranking. So I'm going to leave that as an honorable mention. Otherwise, we will get going with those top 10. So number 10 is Lost Ruins of Arnak. Lost Ruins of Arnak is a deck building exploration game where players are archaeologists exploring a once great civilization and the sites that it left behind, also battling the guardians that were left behind. So it is a game where you're building up your deck, but you're playing those cards in order to place your meeples on the board. Basically a worker placement mechanism where you are collecting resources in order to perform different tasks, which might be to fight one of those guardians and pull it into your play area for a boon later, or playing those resources to move up a research track, which can also get you some benefits, or just points at the end of the game. You can also buy new cards, which go on the bottom of your deck, which means you're going to get to them sooner than the cards you've been playing that round, which is kind of a cool mechanism. It means that you're going to get that card soon, rather than in a traditional deck building game, you shuffle it back in your deck and you're never quite sure when it's going to come back out. It means you can kind of plan ahead for the next round a little bit. I really have enjoyed this game. I ended up buying the expansion pretty early on, actually last year, so all of my plays have been with that expansion. This adds variable player powers, which I probably wouldn't play without that unless I'm introducing this to new gamers, especially if they're not super gamery gamers. But I think with most players, I'm going to bring in that expansion. Even before the expansion, though, there was a lot of replayability in this. It has a double-sided board, and that research track is different on both sides. And the different cards that come out will be different each time. And so you'll change your strategy based on that. But with the expansion, it just adds to the replayability and how much I have enjoyed this game. I've even tried it solo, which I enjoyed. I'd like to try it again a few more times. But we have really enjoyed Lost Ruins of Arnak, my number 10. Number 9 is Monsters on Board. Monsters on Board is a dice drafting game where players are controlling this group of monsters who are collecting spook juice in order to host a party at the end of the game. All the while they are trying to summon the Spiderjack by laying out this ritual of, well, it's a tableau of dice, really. So this is a game that I was introduced to at the Dice Tower retreat in September, and it quickly shot to, one of my favorite games for the year. I love dice drafting. That's always fun. You can kind of plan ahead a little bit if you look around and see what color dice are out there at least. And so you're drafting these dice for their color, because that will move certain monsters through your town, which gives you some additional benefits. You're also drafting them for the symbols that are on there, because after you move your monsters, you will be using those symbols in order to perform certain actions. And also for the number, because the number can give you some mayhem, which is spending power for the game. This means that, there's a lot going on. I love the puzzly aspect of laying out this order of the Spiderjack. It's a tableau of dice, so that each round you're laying out 3 dice. You have to start on the left side and go, toward the right, but you've got 3 rows you can lay them in. And you have a game end goal for how this should go. It might be that each column needs to add up to 10, so you're really being careful about what numbers you put in there. Or you might be doing some addition where the top dice plus the second dice equals the bottom dice. Or maybe you want the sum of a row to be 23 or something like that. So that means you are putting a lot of thought into which dice you're putting where. The color can be important as well. The color comes into the game end scoring, depending on which monsters you've gotten to move all the way through town. And there's just so much going on here. There is an element of multiplayer solitaire other than that, initial drafting of the dice, but that doesn't bother me at all. I just love the puzzle of this. The art is amazing. I love how these monsters look. The minis are cute, although that's only the deluxe edition, and there are a few problems with the, production of it kind of getting in the way of the game. But I've looked past all of that, and I've just really enjoyed this game. That's Monsters on Board, my number 9. Number 8 is Beyond the Sun. Beyond the Sun is a space exploration game where players are building out a tech tree in order to go explore new exoplanets and colonize them. I really enjoy this game. The tech tree aspect, I don't have many tech tree games. This is probably the one I can think of at the top of my head. And the fact that the game is all about the tech tree makes it look like Spreadsheet the game. But there are a lot of great decisions to make, especially when you're the person who gets to decide what the next technology is in a space. You have a couple that you can choose from. Do you want something that's going to build up your fleet of ships faster, or do you want to be able to colonize easier, or move around that little tiny exploration board? It's not that big. So you're always running into other people, so there's player interaction there. You're also blocking people from the spot that you're currently on the tech tree. It has a really cool mechanism for the production. You have to be constantly moving these production discs up in order to get more resources, but you have to be careful which resource columns are full, because if they're empty, you no longer get anything from it. So it's just this really cool mechanism, and it just all comes together. It's not a looker, but it is a really fun game. That's my number 8, Beyond the Sun. Number 7 is The Loop. The Loop is a cooperative game where players are working together to race through time in order to defeat Dr. Foe, who is leaving his duplicates all over history and creating mayhem. So I was 100% drawn in by the art of this game, but the gameplay has, kept me loving it. This is a game where, you are doing a tiny bit of deck building, but that's not the main mechanism. You're moving around this circle, which represents different eras in history, and you're trying to figure out how to move far enough to, take out Dr. Foe's duplicates, or to work together with other players in the game to position yourself in the right places to complete tasks that you're, trying to finish in order to win the game. This has a little cube tower that you drop things in, so you're never quite sure, where the bad stuff is going to happen at the beginning of each turn, but you have some idea, and, maybe you let one era kind of go because it's not going to hit there for a little bit, and then you regret that choice later when it does come up. But we've had so much fun with this game. The different cards all have so much humor. Like I said, the art is super cute, and the gameplay has kept me coming back for more. That's number 7, The Loop. Number 6 is Mystic Vale. Mystic Vale is a card crafting game where players are, restoring the land that has been cursed. The theme is there in the art only, not in the game mechanisms, but I don't really care. I love this mechanism. You have a deck of cards, And unlike a traditional deck builder, you aren't getting more cards into your hand. You are upgrading the cards that you have with these clear advancements. You know, each advancement has a segment, is segmented into thirds, and when you slide it into your card, you now have, you know, a third of it is taken up with this new thing, this new ability that you have. There's a little push your luck element where, you know, you set up your field in front of you, your cards from the top of your deck, and if you have too many of one symbol showing, you stop. But you can push your luck. You can grab another card or two, and as long as no more of that symbol comes up, you're fine. So, you know, if you have kind of a cruddy hand, you can push your luck. You can, you know, try and get a slightly better hand. And if you fail, you have a little amulet that you know, turn over and will later on another turn give you a benefit. So, you know, I love, you know, this push your luck aspect. I love the card crafting of this. I have almost every expansion, not quite all of them, but most of them. And I love just going into a game without a strategy and just looking at all the cards that are out there and trying to see what I can cobble together from what's there. Every play of this has been different, and I just love getting this one to the table. That's Mystic Vale, my number 6. Number 5 is Sleeping Gods. Sleeping Gods is a story-driven cooperative game where players play a crew of a ship that has been plopped in the middle of the wandering sea and are looking for totems in order to get themselves home again. This is really an open game where you can explore any part of the map. You can go to different things and tell a story and make some decisions, maybe get into a battle with some monsters, or, you know, help out the locals with a problem. This was my number 1 game last year. We played 7 campaigns in 2021. This past year we only played a couple, but it's still, every time it comes out, it's a new experience. You're looking at this board, where haven't we explored yet, or where have we explored but we did one thing and wished we'd tried something else. Let's go try that. We have the expansion, so we're looking at these dungeons that have been added to the storybook. So this one it's not like a super strategic game. It's a game that you just sit down, immerse yourself in, and enjoy the experience. And every time I've done that, I have had a great time. That's my number 5, Sleeping Gods. Number 4 is Now or Never. Now or Never is a story-driven game where players are trying to rebuild their ancestral home and attract new residents to their new villages. Now, this is also made by Ryan Laukat, who made Sleeping Gods, and it is the third in the trilogy of Above and Below, Near and Far, and Now or Never. It is a game where, you know, there's this huge map that you can explore. There are stories on there that you can interact with. But at the same time, you have your own player boards. One is a village that you're building up. You're trying to build buildings into it. And then you have a character board that gives you what your abilities are. While you're moving around the map, you may be fighting enemies or encountering a story or taking different actions that are available to you on the board. But you don't have to move around the board on a turn. You have other things that you can do. You can use your specialists that you have on your player board, which, you know, can be building those buildings like I mentioned, or healing yourself, or even buying some equipment to help you the next time you go and do one of your hero actions on the board. In story mode, you are taking on the role of a character who has some problem that they are solving throughout the course of this, I think, a 6-game campaign. I loved our campaign of this. I loved the story of my character, Zeke. It was fun to hear about the different things he was discovering and how he was trying to solve his problem, and kind of navigate the world. But then, you know, my spouse was playing another character, and I could hear bits and pieces of her story, but I didn't know the complete background, because when you start the game, you have a thing that you read to yourself about your character. So there's some things that are secret, some things that are totally public. That made it a little bit more fun, you know, kind of more like real life. I don't always know what someone else is thinking or feeling or what they've been through in their lives. So that made this, you know, kind of a fun experience. It is a long game. We've only played it at 2 players. I have not tried it with more. I'm going to try it with 3-player this coming year. I'm looking forward to it. I wonder if it'll be a different experience or if I will love it just as much. But I liked it enough this year that it is my number 4, now or never. Number 3 is Underwater Cities. Underwater Cities is a worker placement game where you are collecting resources in order to build up this underwater city domes and paths between them in front of you. This has been one of my favorite games for a few years now. I love the worker placement mechanism on this, where you are, putting down a worker, but there are 3 colors on the board. And in addition to playing that worker, you're playing a card from your hand. If the color of the card matches where you're placing your worker, you get the benefit of the card. Otherwise, you just discard the card without any benefit. So it makes for these wonderful decisions where, sometimes there's one action I absolutely want to do, but I don't have a card of that color in my hand, or the card that I have in that color isn't all that great for me right now. So do I do that action anyway because that's maybe the best thing for me right now? Or do I do kind of a lesser action where I can also get the benefit of a card that will help me more? And then do I hope that I get the right color for the other action I'm going to do, but that someone doesn't take that before I get there? I like the building up of the city in front of you. It's very tactile. There are domes that you're placing on your board as you're building up structures. You put little cubes on there, and you have tunnels that you're placing between them. It looks so fun. It's very thinky. You're constantly planning ahead. What is your next action going to be? But I love the satisfaction at the end of the game when you realize how much you've actually accomplished with what felt like very tight and limited resources. That's my number 3, Underwater Cities. My number 2 is Clank Catacombs. Clank Catacombs is the next iteration of this deck-building, dungeon-crawling game. I have been a fan of all of the Clank games. I have the base Clank with all of the different maps that come with it. We played through 2 campaigns of the Legacy game, and a friend of mine has Clank in Space, which I love to get out when we play together. This is a great way to give you replayability in the same box. I mean, you have that with the other Clank games, but you only have one map with each box. This one, you are creating the map as you go. You start on a very small tile, a 2-square tile, and as you start moving off of that, you play tiles, and you never quite know where they're going to go because maybe another player is going to play something that's good for them, not great for you. You don't know where the artifacts are going to come out. You have these other mechanisms where when you unlock a tunnel, you're unlocking it for everybody. So it's no longer that you need to have the key to get through, just maybe someone else needs to go in front of you. I've really enjoyed my plays of this game. I'm looking forward to exploring it some more. I just love Clank to begin with, and this is a great addition to the Clank universe. That's my number 2, Clank Catacombs. And my number 1 is Ark Nova. Ark Nova is a game where players are building up a zoo in front of them, using action selection in order to build up habitats for their animals, place animals in the habitats, and develop partnerships with other zoos or complete conservation projects. This game feels like it was made just for me. I love zoo-themed games, and I always have. But this one is a step above the other ones. A lot of zoo-themed games are family weight. This one is definitely a heavier game than that. You have so much going on. You have the actions that you're selecting, and they get stronger when you don't use them for a few turns, but maybe you need to do the same thing a couple times in a row to, maximize other things that you want to do for the round. You are, playing cards into a tableau, which include animals that you're playing into your park, but also sponsorship deals, which can chain together with other things to give you more benefits. You're completing conservation projects, because the scoring mechanism in this is that you have 2 tracks. One that's appeal, so this is, how much people want to come into your zoo, and the other one is conservation, what you're doing to help animals out in the wild. And once those 2 paths cross by any one player, it triggers the end of the game. So you can't completely ignore one or the other, and you need to concentrate on both. This has been a game that has just been a joy to get out every single time. It was my most anticipated of the year. I was a little bit skeptical because there was so much hype about it, but when I jumped in, I found that I loved it. I am part of that hype machine now, and I'm okay with that. So that is my number 1 pick for the year, Ark Nova. I'd love to hear about your number 1 picks for the game. What have you been playing in 2022 that you absolutely loved? What's hit the table the most? Or, what's something, a hidden gem that you didn't know that you were going to like and you just loved it when it hit the table? Tell me in the comments below. Otherwise, I will be back again. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you know when I post new videos. Otherwise, I'll see you later.